Hey, I'm your own Clevonne with Lorraine Lindsey on the scene, and we have a new podcast called The Cat and Mouse. And this right here is a new opening, and we just taking different surveys from different people and different opinions of what they think. So today, one of the topics we have is women making more money than men. That's one of the topics. And then somebody else submitted how to fix when you've grown apart.
Yeah.
So those are a few topics that we actually took, and we took these topic surveys from a group of friends that we actually have that actually just asked us to throw them out there.
They were like, this is what we want to hear about. We want a man's perspective, a woman's perspective.
Yeah.
And on my podcast, you and I have been going back and forth, and people really seemed really like motivated or driven or triggered by our conversation. And so you and I were like, look, we need to create our own platform because you're super transparent about keeping it real from your perspective, a man's perspective, and I keep it real from a woman's perspective. So we're going to have this cat and mouse every week.
Yeah.
Where we see who wins. Does the cat get the mouse, and who's the cat and who's the mouse?
All right, we're going to actually see that. And keep the emotions under wraps because this is just a intimate dialogue along the way. So it may get heated sometimes it may not, but we just want to make sure we're clear that we still got love for each other.
I always have love for you, and we will agree always to disagree at the end unless I can convince you with my intellect and my wit and my knowledge.
All right, got you. And I am on the scene with a cutter. All right, she will cut you deep. So how you want to open this up now?
Well, let's talk about, like you said, we have people out there. We ask the question, like, we're starting this new thing. What are some hot topics, particularly when it comes to relationships? Because people love to talk about relationships, right? Mm-hmm. It's either relationships, wealth, or I don't know, business or something. I don't know.
Yeah.
But relationships is a hot topic. And so we said, what do y'all want us to talk about? And it was like what you said, the why do people grow apart? And I think that we should start with that.
Okay.
Because I certainly have my opinion on from a woman's side why we detach ourselves from our relationships versus what you men think. And I would love for us to kind of like go right into that.
So let's ask this real quick because you said that women actually get to a point where they detach themselves. But I feel like sometimes women check out faster than men.
Oh, not sometimes. I would say most of the time.
I feel like women check out faster. And one of the ways women always check out is you can't hit it no more.
That is not the only way.
Well, it's one of the ways, though. Okay. It's one way, like, don't touch me. I don't want to be near you. Like, a woman is more quick to push a man away and not be receptive to him anymore. And most men actually stay in a relationship for the kids.
Okay, well, what's the excuse when you don't have any children?
When you don't have any children, sometimes they say it's cheaper to keep her. That's the old saying, because when we leave a relationship, the truth is, and this is say I'm drifting, but I'm telling you, when we leave a relationship, who loses the fastest, men or women?
Depends.
No.
Of course, yeah.
Who loses the fastest? Men. Men always lose. So if you leave me,
that's so vague. What do you mean by that?
So if you leave me, are you getting half of my stuff?
Depends.
If I leave, am I gonna get half of your stuff when you leave, or do you get half of my stuff?
It really depends.
No, ain't no depend.
It does depend, Clevonne.
Who gets alimony, women or men?
It depends on who makes more money.
Who gets child support, women or men?
It depends on who makes more money.
Who gets the house, women or men?
It depends on who makes more money.
Is 95% of the time women. Don't try to say it depends.
Wait, where are you getting your facts from?
This is automatic facts.
Don't fake news already.
Okay, gotcha. If you say fake news, this is reality news. So this is something we always see across the board when we're talking about men and women.
Okay, so hold on.
Relationships.
I'm going to pump the brakes for a second.
Okay, go for it.
Because you got to keep it real.
Okay.
Let's just go by law, right? A man and a woman, especially today's day, I mean, you can go back to Leave It to Beaver or whatever the heck that show is called, but today's day, when they determine who's getting what, it's based on who was the supporting spouse or the supporting person.
Okay.
So if the woman was the breadwinner and made all the money and she had a stay-at-home husband or a man that hardly worked, she's liable to pay alimony and support and money. I have a client right now, who is buying a house. I do real estate.
Okay.
And she was talking about how they fought for 50-50 custody in their separation, but because she makes more money, even though they're splitting 50-50, she still has to pay him money.
You say you have a client, and I'm talking about a vast majority of
So
people
I just made a
across the
very
board.
specific point.
You made a specific point about a person.
Yeah.
And I'm giving you across the board
But
situation.
no, but it's not across the board. It depends on who makes more money.
Okay, so this will be a debate till the end of time.
But I want you to finish your point though, without it being, I'm being specific, you're being vague. So based on what you're saying, what do you mean who gets more, and why is that even relevant when it comes to?
Because that's just a system.
Okay.
It's a system. Automatically, men lose faster than women. But when we go back to the point.
But what do you mean by that though? Don't
I'm
just
talking
say
about
it.
When we check out a relationship,
Okay.
when we break up, we're married. You and I are married.
Okay.
And we break up. They're taking my check. They're taking money out of my check, hands down, regardless of what you make. They're taking money out of my check. And if we got a child together, they're taking money out of my check for that child as well.
Okay.
And then if we have a house together, we're going to have to split the house down the middle, or they're going to let you stay in the house.
It sounds like this is a personal story.
No, it ain't no personal story. This is reality. It is personal when you've actually seen it happen over and over again.
Yeah.
But when we're talking about checking out of the relationship.
Yeah, falling apart.
Okay, now what do you mean when you say falling apart?
Well, I mean, like when you've been with somebody for an extended period of time, and you start to drift apart, and you start to, I don't know, the relationship just starts to seem like it's dissolving,
Okay.
and you start to lose interest with your partner, and it's like, why does that happen? Number one, and what are some of the things that cause it to happen? And outside of like major stuff like infidelity and stuff like that,
Okay.
like, look, you got a good person over here and a good person over here. And at one point they were in love and everything was good. And now it's however many years later or whatever the time frame is, and you're just kind of falling apart. You're going apart.
Okay.
So what do you think? Because you're right what you said about women. 100%, and I can't speak for all, but I will say 100% for the most part. I know that doesn't even make sense. 100% for the most part. Whatever. Women will check out before they leave, long before they leave. So when a woman is emotionally just spent in her relationship, she will stay for a specific time frame as she's mentally preparing herself to leave. But when she finally pulls the trigger to bounce and leave, she's gone.
So would you agree that the vast majority of divorces are initiated by women?
Yes.
Okay.
Well, I do know that to be somewhat of a fact.
Okay, so that's a fact that women are more apt to leave a relationship when it's failing, when it ain't right, when my emotions aren't there anymore. A man's emotions could be out of it. He know it ain't right, and he's trying to stick it out for the sake of the kids, the family. It's cheaper. When they say it's cheaper to keep her, it's not just cheaper to keep her, but it's cheaper to keep the family dynamic together. Because even if we aren't on the same page, we can still cohabitate and actually allow these kids to see a healthy, like have mother and father in a household, because it really tears it apart a lot.
I mean, I think sometimes the latter is better. I mean, I think sometimes you're in an environment where people think the best thing to stay, and that's not always the truth. Sometimes it's better to go your separate ways and be amicable parents and co-parent your children. Sometimes that's the better way, because if you're in a house where you're falling apart or you're distancing each other and you're not even talking, what does that do for your children?
Yeah, that hurts as well. But then when you're actually in a point where you're actually falling apart, when you're actually falling apart, you're distant, you're not together anymore, that is an unhealthy situation. So yeah, sometimes it's better to actually leave the situation while you're ahead. Now let's go back to the reasons why a person should stay.
Or no, let's go, why do you feel like, because I'm trying to think of it from a personal perspective, right?
Okay.
As to reasons why there were times in my life where the relationship was a long relationship and I started to feel like I was disconnecting. For me, I feel like a lot of it was coming from resentment that was unresolved. Like issues that were unresolved turned into resentment. And with that resentment, it slowly started chipping away to the point where you just kind of emotionally check out at first.
Where do you feel the resentment comes from, what you're talking about? Where do you feel resentment actually comes from?
I think sometimes when you're in a relationship for a long period of time and there's certain patterns that happen over and over and over again, and you feel like there's no resolve, when issues aren't being talked about, they're just kind of being swept under the rug. When there's here's another thing for me personally that I think, you get into a relationship without being honest in that relationship initially. So the things that you want, need, and desire, sometimes we are compromising in those things when we really don't want to compromise for the sake of just being in that relationship initially. And then I think what happens is as time goes on, you have this hope or this idea that those wants, needs, and desires will be fulfilled. And then at some point you start to be honest about what you want, need, and desire. And the partner's like, when did this happen? It was an all along thing. So you didn't keep it real. And then when you start to keep it real, it starts to build resentment in the relationship.
Why do you think we get to a point where we're not honest with each other across the board anymore? Because that's one of the things. When we're in the beginning, we're friends.
Okay.
We're friends. I like you, you like me, and we're being honest. And oh man, your hair should be pushed back more. And you be like, thank you for being so honest with me. Then you get in a relationship and that compresses. Now you become more reserved and you don't say as much. You can't be as honest because now it's like we're walking on eggshells.
Well, okay, why?
Because there's a big shift always when you get in a relationship with a person. There's always a shift.
But you said walking on eggshells.
Yes.
Right? Because I've heard that a lot. You know, people get into a point where they're like, I feel like I'm always walking on eggshells. And I actually hear men say that a lot. And I can even say in true candor that my partner would definitely say that when he's around me, he feels like nothing I do is enough and I'm walking on eggshells.
So that confirms.
And that frustrates me so much.
Okay, that confirms because your emotions are going to always be the backlash of the outcome of a situation.
What the heck did you just say?
What I just said is because you're going to become emotionally, your emotions are going to actually have an outburst of whatever I do. Because sometimes with some women.
What do you mean by that? You got to clarify that.
You are more emotional. I'm more logical.
Who says?
You're a woman, I'm a man.
That doesn't mean anything.
It does mean a lot.
I do not believe and I can only speak for myself, but I am probably more of the logical person in my relationship, and my partner is definitely more emotional. He responds way more emotionally than I do. He gets ignited very easy. It doesn't take much to trigger him.
Okay, got it. So, and we're going to have to talk about that too, because a lot of women don't understand a lot of men when it comes to those outbursts as well.
Okay, let's talk about that.
When men have outbursts like that, sometimes there's a lot of things actually going on. You have a lot of background issues, whether the man was just raised with just his mama, whether he had a detachment, because a lot of women, when we're talking about women, men being raised specifically by women, how do women react? Emotionally or logically? Let's keep it real.
Depends on the woman.
No, they operate emotionally.
It really does depend.
My mama operated emotionally, regardless how logical she was. My daddy could be sitting down watching Andy Griffith, minding his own business. My mama come in there and get on him out of nowhere. My daddy be like, yeah, all right, cool.
But that's your experience.
That's my experience.
That doesn't mean it's the Holy Grail.
But I was predominantly raised with a woman. And what I'm going with this from experience is a lot of my outbursts until I actually heal within myself, where I would just kind of go off the edge.
Yeah.
And a person like, why you do that? Whatever. I'm raised, here's the other issue is, because I didn't have a solid, consistent man that actually showed me how to logically respond.
Okay. So then you became an emotional man. So you're making my point for me.
Exactly. So, no, well, I was still logical. I was, for the moment. So I was logical as a man, but sometimes there were things that actually triggered me. So my uncle, who's a man, but a homosexual man, identifies more of a woman counterpart. So he's like, these women are his heroes.
You're more making my point for me.
Okay.
Because initially you started off by saying that women are emotional and men are logical. And I'm telling you that that's not always the case, and you're making my point for me.
No, I'm making your point right now because of what you want to hear. What I'm trying to...
No, it's not because of what I want to hear. It's what you're saying.
The point I'm making is I'm still a man at the end of the day.
Okay.
So I still have
men,
logical,
just like
but
women.
when we're talking about my emotions of how I'm reacting emotionally, it does not stem from I'm an illogical thinker. I'm talking about my emotional outbursts.
Okay.
My emotional outbursts.
Well, can we say that both men and women can be both logical and emotional people?
You as a woman know how to trigger a man. You can say something hands down and don't deny it. A woman can say something that dig under the man's skin. You can say something that's slick as hell and walk off and be like,
of course I can.
Exactly.
Okay, but can a man trigger a woman?
We're not always triggering a woman. Men aren't
That wasn't my
always
question.
No.
I said, can a man trigger a woman?
Yes, a man can.
Absolutely.
A man can, but it's not
Can
often.
one human trigger another human emotionally?
Come on now.
I mean, you're just saying stuff. Well, you
I
gotta.
ain't saying nothing. I'm saying
Yeah.
I'm saying truth. I'm saying truth. I'm saying I was giving you the analogy of being a man raised around women
Yeah.
and a homosexual man. That's supposed to be the man that's guiding me, right? I ain't homosexual. I'm not into boys. But what I'm saying is this is what I see along the way. I did not see men how they sit down, digest the
Okay, but
things.
what does that have to do with what your point is that you're trying to
The
make?
point I'm making is you as a woman know how to trigger that man.
Yes, and you as a man can trigger a woman. It's true. People trigger each other all the. I think when you're emotionally tied to somebody, it doesn't matter if you're man, man, woman, woman, man, and woman. It doesn't matter if it's heterosexual, homosexual. It doesn't matter. What matters is when you're emotionally involved with somebody
Okay.
at the highest level of connection, right, which is in a relationship. People can trigger one another. Why? Because when you're falling for somebody or you're loving someone, it
Okay.
also causes an incredible amount of vulnerability, right? And so we have triggers. We have things in us that get triggered by the other person, whether it's the fear of rejection, whether it's a fear of abandonment,
Okay.
whatever it is, fill in the blank, we all can be triggered. So when we talk about circling back to why people fall apart, it's maybe to just kind of solidify is to say it's when you've been triggered too many times with no resolve, in my opinion.
And then you're saying it from a woman's perspective, because I'm trying to figure out
Well,
what would be
yeah,
the man's
like-
irritability towards a woman. Because most men are not just lashing out, but because I'm sometimes don't know how to deal with the emotional space.
I don't think it's always has to do with the person per se. It just sometimes is an eternal thing. Something I believe that most people are triggered not by what someone on the on the outside has done. It's more so what you just said reminded me. It sourced something inside of me that's a trigger for me, right? It's almost like I'll give you an example.
Okay.
I was coaching someone, and I'm trying to remember the word that they used. I can't remember the word, but for lack of me remembering, I'll just make up a word. Let's say use the word power as a word. Okay. It wasn't the word. I can't remember the word. But anyhow, in the conversation, the word power was used, and it triggered the person. It was a word that was simple. It wasn't a word that you would think would trigger somebody, but they got very defensive, very offended, very quickly.
Okay.
And what I recognized is like, whoa, whoa, whoa. We have to take a seat back here and really see how you define this word and what this word means to you, because it triggered you. Because when I said the word, I meant this, but what you heard meant what? And so I feel like when you're in a relationship with people and they get triggered, sometimes you don't even think you're doing anything wrong. You don't even know you're doing something wrong. And they're up in arms about something. And you're like, what the hell is going on?
It all depends on the person and the situation. I was in one relationship
Mm-hmm.
where it would be a trigger. The person will automatically do something, and it's like I'm already irritable. I'm already on edge with you.
But
And
why?
Because you said earlier, there's a bitterness some people grow with a person.
Yeah.
So I'm already kind of low key bitter with you, and then you know how to already get me off. So you'll go say something or do something that you be like, and then you be like, oh, what you tripping on? What's your problem? You acting out.
So you feel like they intentionally try to aggravate you.
Yes, hands down, down. But then retract from it like they didn't know what happened.
So okay, so
I
these
dealt
are
with
the
something like that.
things. These are the things that cause people to kind of grow apart. You know what I'm saying? Like, let me think about like my situation, for example, my relationship, because we've been on again, off again, on again, off again. We've played this game many, many times, and I always think about what was happening at the end when we were on the off again side, where we would finally break up before we'd get back together, kind of thing. And for me, we are just polar opposite personalities, right? And I'm going to say the opposite. I feel like for me, I'm more of a logical person. I'm very impatient with emotionally stimulated people. If I'm being honest, I get very aggravated by it because it's like talking to a drunk person. If you're in your emotional state of mind and you're hysterical about whatever it is, we can't conversate. And so for me, it's like when you calm down, we can have a conversation. But what would happen is when the calm down would happen, it would turn into isolation.
Correct.
Where there was no talking to one another, no speaking.
Correct.
And when talking started happening again, it was kind of things were being swept under the rug and the issue wasn't being dealt with.
Yeah, you're right.
So then
you're
you
right,
go into
you're
this
right.
process where you think everything's good, but people are keeping that resentment in their back pocket. And it just becomes like this vicious cycle, and at some point you just check out.
Because there's an unhealed version of a person. And what I can look at for myself, I'm using myself as an example, is I was in a relationship like that.
Okay.
And I can look at it totally different from a healed perspective of saying, what could I have done different being healed going into a relationship? Being unhealed, everything you say is going to trigger me. Automatically. I see you, man. I seen your forehead in the mirror, you mother. Like that's going through my head.
So
like
silly.
I can't believe you. So now I'm irritated, hands down, because of the smallest little thing.
Yeah.
But on a healed version, I know how to process it different. So many people, there are a lot of people who aren't healed from beyond you. There's a lot of parts of us individually where we don't heal, we haven't healed, and so we're not really receptive to when you bring up something, even if it is logical.
Yeah,
because I'm already irritated.
It's so exhausting to think about because it's like everybody has a story they need to heal from, and what are we all supposed to do? Wait? It's like at some point we gotta put on our big boy pants and be adults. And say, okay, yeah, mama was this way, daddy was this way, but that can't be your forever mantra.
It can't, but some people don't know how to process that and deal with it. So that's why we're talking about, when we're talking about growing apart in relationships, I'm bringing up a fact of like, there's so many channels of what keeps us to a point where we're growing apart. With the issues I have with my mama, the issues I have with my daddy, the issues I had with you past tense, the issues I had with the last person I was with past tense.
Yeah.
So now every time we get our relationship, we go into the next relationship like, I'm good now because I'm out of that. But in reality, I come into it with expecting
carrying all your luggage.
I'm expecting you to do the same thing the other person. I hate when you slurp when you drink. I can't believe it. You slurp just like Lorraine, you motherfucker. Now it's just automatic trigger. It's like, I'm not Lorraine.
Some of the stuff you say, I'm like, where is he coming up with this stuff?
It's all improv, sweetheart. So what I'm telling you is, in the relationships, this is where you got to have conversation along the way. Some of us have not matured to be able to have a logical conversation.
Right.
Do you have a person?
Okay, so then, let's stop there real quick.
Okay.
What you just said right there. Some people they don't have their healing, as you put it, or they don't have a capacity. So if you have a partner in your life, okay, and you have spent years with this person, and you understand that there's some healing that needs to be done, and let's just say they've done some work, maybe, but there's still this pattern and this habitual thing that happens amongst the two of them, just because that's the design of relationships. You get into habits, right?
Okay.
What point do you say their healing is beyond my desire to stick around for it? Do you know what I'm saying? Like, because everybody needs something, and sometimes we don't know what we need until we get into community or into relationship with other people, because that's what brings it out.
Okay.
I could spend all day long with me and be just fine and not know what triggers me. But when I get into relationship with somebody, then that person is somewhat going to be a mirror to me of what my issues are. It's what really kind of attracts us to those people sometimes anyway. It's why people get into trauma bonds and unhealthy toxic relationships.
It's what the comfort is. It's our level of comfort. So I've gotten into, like you say, trauma bonding situations because of my level of comfort. Because I was comfort with toxicity. Toxicity has a level of comfort because if I was raised around it, because that's all I know, I'm going to always draw the toxicity. The person who's made whole is intimidating to me. A lot of people cannot deal with somebody who was made whole because it's too intimidating. Just like we say about people who are more successful than us, we don't want to deal with them because it's going to intimidate us to have to step our game up.
Some people, if that's their frame of reference, and that's true.
Some people, because it's all unhealed. It's all unhealed versions.
For some people, it's intimidating, and other people, it's inspiring, right? Like, I like to be around stronger-minded people. I enjoy being around wealthier people and business people and things like that. For me, that has become a big source for me.
Okay.
Because it levels me up. You cannot stand in company and be in company with people who have a level of growth that you don't have and not grow.
Oh my God, dude. That's a conversation in its own, because I myself had to learn how to walk away from people who are the word beneath you. It's not trying to be belittling people, but it's the truth that when you've outgrown people, I'm here and I keep coming down trying to make you get to my level.
Yeah.
I'm going to always lose, and I am a testament that have always lost doing that.
Yeah.
So it's better to actually be around people who are actually more complete or can push you to another level. But in relationship wise, why you keep attracting those type of people? Well, that's where you got to heal at.
Oh, very true. Very true. So I have pulled up this article, and it was, why do people grow apart? So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Lack of communication, lack of trust, financial problems, lack of intimacy, shared interests, and unrealistic expectations.
Ooh.
So I want us to kind of tap on those because I think they're really valid points. So the first one, lack of communication.
Lack of communication.
Let me tell you, for me,
Okay.
this is a big thing. I feel like it's probably the biggest reason why most relationships don't work is because of a breakdown in communication, right? And the style of communication.
Now,
because it's not just communicating, it's how you communicate, the tone in which you communicate, and the timing of which you communicate.
Oh, yeah, you're being very vague.
No, that's very specific. Okay, but I will give you examples. So, why do I feel like communication is super important?
Okay.
I'm a type of person where if I have a problem, I got to speak to the problem right away. I can't skirt around it. I don't want to wait. I need to talk about this right now.
You sound like me.
Right? Whereas sometimes that's problematic because if the conversation is going to be triggering or it's going to cause fueled emotion, sometimes it's better to wait to have that conversation.
True.
Right? Another thing in communication is measuring the need to be right versus which makes the other person wrong. And my thing is, I've always been a big thing, like I'll say my point, but my partner will think I'm saying it because I need to be right. And it's like, no, what I need is to be heard. I don't need to be right about what I'm saying. I need you to acknowledge that you heard what I'm saying.
So as a person, actually, because here's one of the things what I learned over time, is when we're communicating, you have to know the difference of when you're venting and when you're dealing with issues. Mm-hmm. Because sometimes we will compile the two together and say that you need to hear what I'm saying, but really you're venting. So sometimes, like I learned over time when I'm talking to a person, even if I'm talking to you, I'm like, Lorraine, I'm just venting. Just listen.
Yeah.
I've called a company because I was so frustrated because they jacked up my money. I was hot. And the lady's like, I can't do anything. Ma'am, just listen. I'm just venting. Please just listen. Mm-hmm. Let me get this out. It's nothing personal to you. But when we're learning to talk, most people don't even know how to say that much because they don't know when they're venting or when they're dealing with the issues.
Yeah.
So that's why a lack of communication come in too.
That's a good point. I think that there has to be some kind of like, this is where when you get to know your person, being able to communicate what each person needs in the communication, right? And like you said, that's something I've been notorious for. When my partner is venting or sharing, I want to solicit help. No, it's like if they're venting about a situation, whatever, instead of me just listening to what they're saying, I want to solve the problem.
That's interjecting.
Well, yeah. I'm soliciting help when it's unsolicited. They're not asking for it. They just need to be heard. And so learning that, really learn to say, am I listening or did you want me to say something? Because my nature is to be a problem solver. You know, it's what I do for a living. So if someone calls me and says, this is what's going on in my life, blah, 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 blah. Or if my man comes home and he's blah, 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 work or whatever, I'm like, oh, well, you need to do this. You should do this. And by the way, this, and this is what's happening. Yep, I'm not asking you, right? And being able to have that person say that to me without it hurting my feelings, like, I'm just trying to help, you know? So that's where I'm saying communication or the breakdown in communication. So for me, the biggest reason why I've ever fallen apart in my relationship is because the communication is poor or it's polar opposite. Like we literally think so different about a situation that we can never seem to come to terms about what's happening. And it's all relative, right? Because it's my perspective versus their perspective. And sometimes you just can't get on the same page and you start to just shut down. You start to think like, as a woman, we start to think like, I'm not even going to bother having this conversation anymore. It just is what it is. And you start checking out.
Yeah, that sucks.
Sucks because and men don't realize it. And here is the thing. Let me say this real quick. So from a woman's perspective, when we are fighting you on a thing and arguing on a thing and going to bat with you on things, we still care. When we stop saying that thing, it's not because we've healed or we are better or we're okay with it. Is we're checking out.
Here's the issue with that.
Do you hear that?
Because
that's the truth.
Men process a lot slower than women.
Okay.
First of all, you as a woman, you are a washing machine. Okay?
Okay.
And I am a dresser drawer. And this is what I mean by a dresser, drawer, and a washing machine. A washing machine, you throw everything in there at one time, and you get to switching it up. And I'm tired of brisk iced tea, and I don't like the lighting, and I'm tired of the lawn being done, and the purses aren't on sale no more, and I can't find no meat. So
this is your imitation of a woman?
This is an imitation of a woman.
Okay.
So you throw all this together, and a man is like, God damn, like, all right, okay. His brain has not kept up.
Okay.
The way men process is every drawer that you pull out one at a time. So when we come to you to solve a problem, when you just told me about the lawn and garden, I come to you, you just vented on Sunday. I come back to you on Thursday. You know what? I went to go cut the grass. And you're like, I don't give a damn about no grass. Did you realize I ain't got no gas in the car? So
I'm trying to follow you, but
you're trying to follow me. But what I'm saying is a man processes a lot slower and a woman is more irritated because you didn't keep up with what's going on Sunday. You didn't keep up with what was going on because I threw everything in a washing machine every time. All men don't know how to process that. That's another issue that happens between men and women. I'm being real with you. It seems far-fetched.
It doesn't seem far-fetched. I'm just trying to follow the analogy.
Follow that a man processes things a lot slower than a woman. So when you're processing things, that's why as a woman...
But even still yet, even if the process is a slower process, it still has to be properly communicated regardless.
Okay.
So even if he needs a minute, he should say, I need a minute to process all the stuff that you just said. I mean, at the end of the day, I guess my point is everybody, you have to get at some point where you can get on the same page. Regardless of who's right or who's wrong or whatever. It's like, how can we get on the same page and even agree to disagree sometimes? But we have to communicate these things. And even lack of communication, as far as like just completely shutting down and not talking, can become a problem. Or communicating that everything's okay when it's not. And I will speak for women on that, is that, you know, a lot of women will do that sometimes, is we'll say, no, I'm good, because we just don't even want to be bothered anymore.
But men are natural fixers. I'm a natural fixer.
Women.
When I say fixer, I mean I'm always trying to fix the problem. I'm always trying to protect
I think
it and
so.
resolve it.
I agree with that.
So this is where it becomes a challenge, because I was talking to somebody when we're talking about coaching people, and I was talking to someone in regards to the relationship to help her understand that you are processing things totally different than this man.
Right.
And she, like you say, checked out. I'm checked out. I'm done with this. I ain't got time for him. Listen. Give him time, because I'm telling her
how
from
much time. Cleve?
Listen to me, because I see his
how much time do you guys need?
Listen. I see his potential. So out of the 2 years where
okay, go ahead. I'm sorry.
Out of the 2 years where they've gone,
yeah,
they've grown a lot further. Where he stopped a lot of his patterns. He doesn't sit there and try to enable his family no more. He doesn't want to sit up and do the same things. And I was trying to get her to understand he doesn't know what to do. So they have a family, they have children.
Okay.
And so that's a totally different situation when you don't have children.
Right.
They have children. Your children are with him. And I'm telling her, when she's describing him, and I'm telling her from a male perspective, this is what he's going through. This is the issue. This is how he's processing it. Just give it a little time. And the way she would come off is she would lash at him real quick.
I think you get to a point where, you know, the time, you just get burnt out. You know, and they're like, give him more time, give him more. How much more time? At some point, it's not a matter of even judging it anymore. It's just saying, I accept. Here's what I've had to do in my life, for me personally, is when a relationship's starting to burn out, I've come to the conclusion that I need to accept this person for exactly who they are, independent of whether or not I think they will ever change, or whether or not this potential I'm investing in is ever going to come into fruition.
Okay.
I have to look at this person and say, this is who they are. This is how they communicate. This is their emotional intelligence. This is who they are financially. This is who they are intimately. This is who they are, and this is who I am. And if I look at that and accept that, is that something I really want for my life? Without comparing the grass greener on the other side or any of that, just for my own peace of mind, can I deal with this person? And when you say give it time, sometimes the time is up.
Well, no, I get what you're saying, but you keep running into people who need time. And I'm not saying it's just a man thing, it's a women too.
Yeah.
There are women who don't have the capacity to process either. There are people who are just not on the same level as us. And that's what I mean when I say you're healed and the other person.
But if you recognize that you've made that choice, like, okay, I made a choice to be with somebody who now I'm recognizing doesn't process at a pace that I'm comfortable with, or they just don't have certain capacities. And I see that, and I'm understanding that, and I'm seeing that now. And without judgment, maybe that's just not for me. Is that fair to say?
True, which is very true.
Or do you want to wait to try to mold and get them to be
No.
this thing?
If your brain is gone, your brain is gone. Because I can honestly say I got with somebody because I seen their potential, and that pissed them off when I told them that.
Well, that's terrible.
It's terrible, but I didn't have nothing else to go off of. So
you did have something else to go off of.
Well, listen, because I didn't know the person. So there's a previous relationship that was very toxic.
So you assumed the potential then? Because if you didn't know them, you're assuming potential now.
There you go. That's a good point.
So you're like, ooh, I like the way this looks. I love to smash and hit it. And because I'm super attracted to this person, I'm going to create a fantasy of who they are in my mind and call that potential.
It wasn't a fantasy.
It was because you said you didn't know them.
I didn't know him like that.
Yeah.
Here's the thing because some people have a lack of drive too.
Okay.
So regardless of how much potential they have, their lack of drive just isn't there. Like for me, myself.
Everybody has potential.
Everybody has potential, but some people are quick to judge you. It's like we throw everybody in the same category and we don't know how to pick correctly. For myself, multiple businesses, this and that, achieve that, all that. And now I've fallen off. So with being a man who's fallen off, how do women look at me now all of a sudden? Like, oh, you ain't shit. That's how they'll look at me. Oh, I don't want to invest in that because, you have potential, but I don't want to deal with it.
But let's talk about that because last time when you came on the show, you talked about potential and you're like, and this thing, and it triggered a lot of women. You got a lot of people responding to that when I posted that content about you.
I haven't seen it.
Okay, well, you had said something along the lines of, someone investing in potential. And I think that a lot of people, especially when we've lived long enough and we've had long enough relationships, at that point you're done feeding into people's potential. Every single human being on this planet has potential. They do. Period. Point blank. Whether they are actionable in that potential, they're driven in that potential, motivated by that potential, that is up to that individual. Me personally, I have no time to invest in someone else's potential. I need to invest in mine, and I want to be in partnership with someone who's investing in their own. So that way we can both grow as a unit and also as individual entities. And this whole thing about needing someone to love you that's going to go and do your potential. I mean, it's great. It's fluffy. It sounds like a great movie title, I guess, but it's just not reality. It's exhausting.
When you look at the movie Beauty and the Beast,
okay,
remember Beauty and the Beast? Where did the Beast stay? He lived in a what?
In a castle.
He lived in the castle.
Yeah.
And everybody, before he fell off, he was this handsome prince. He had all this going on. Now the home is run down rugged. There was only one woman that came in his life that did not judge him, that invested into him. Because here's what I'm saying with this.
She didn't invest in him.
She did invest in him because she helped him to become more patient.
Okay, this is a really bad example.
No, it isn't a bad example.
You know why? Because she was there against her will.
She was there against her will, but then...
So she wasn't investing in anything.
She did invest into it when she got to know him.
Well, let's talk about this. Let's talk about Beauty and the Beast in real life, okay?
Come on, because a lot of women, here, let me make the point really quick. Okay. A lot of women want the benefits without the investment. That's the point I'm making.
What does that mean? I disagree with you.
What I mean is some people want to walk into the castle complete. They don't want to make it a home. They want to come into it as complete. You got this, you got the butler, and they don't realize...
The women want the woman wants the house so she can make it a home.
She made it a home unconsciously because that's how she was. It was in her.
So what I mean by that and what you just said is you're like, the woman doesn't want to do the investment without the reward. The investment should be reciprocated. We're each investing into each other for different outcomes, right? If you want to be a traditionalist about it and say the man should provide the house, the woman will make it a home.
But he was a natural provider. He was very patient with her. And he fell in love with her.
Are we still talking about the Beast?
I'm still talking about the Beast because it's overlooked, is made to look like a horrible story. And at the end of the day, this Beast he fell in love with her like she's the first woman that sees me for just me and not looking at how the outer is. At the end of the day, the reward comes.
But that's not how it unfolded that way eventually. And they eventually saw the beauty within one another. But that wasn't how the story started, right?
How the story started was because a lot of people didn't want to mess with that castle.
No, we're not going to go into this whole
All right,
Beauty and the Beast
anyway,
story.
so once again-
I mean, we all know the story, but she wasn't there because she was investing in a beast.
you're
She
going
was
off
there
the
because
wheel.
she had to. She was obligated to be
She
there.
came there in exchange for her dad.
Yeah. So
and then the servants that were there actually welcomed her. Now he was
But
a
that has
very
nothing
angry.
to do with what we're talking about.
It has a lot to do with what we're
Okay.
talking about because it's going over your head. Somebody's going to
Not
actually
going over my
catch it.
head.
What I'm saying is there are people who just want it to be the perfect castle and don't want to invest to make it a home. That's one of the issues. When we're talking about people with potential, is there a lot of people who really don't have potential? They got good conversation.
Everybody has potential.
There are a lot of people who don't really have the potential. They have good conversation.
They have the potential.
There are a lot of women who run into men who don't have nothing to offer them. There are a lot of
They
men
don't have anything
who run into
that is
women
correct.
that don't have nothing to offer them.
It doesn't mean those people do not have potential.
They have inside of them potential.
Yes, of
But
course.
what happens is, once again, we've thrown everybody in the mix together. Because when I taught before, you can tell when we was in high school, we knew where the special ed kids was. Did we or did we not? They was in the coach class. They was walking down the hallway
that is
together.
not nice at all.
It's not nice. What I'm
And I
saying
did
is,
not-
we heard them walking down the hall. They were in one class.
Okay, I don't remember that.
I remember it. They were in one class. We knew it. Now everybody's thrown together. Here's what I'm saying. Everybody's thrown together where some people don't even have the mental capacity to do addition, subtraction, can't read.
What is your point?
The point I'm making is that we got to start sifting for the real people. You got to start doing the work so you can find a real person.
Okay, what is the work?
The work is within you so you don't keep on running into the people who really don't have the potential you're looking for.
We're not looking, okay. Maybe we're saying the same thing, I don't know. I'm going to go back to this word potential that you love to use, okay? Every person has potential, okay? Whether they are motivated and actionable in their potential is a totally different conversation. Now, if I, as a woman who is acting on my potential,
correct,
and seeing that come into fruition, I'm most certain that becomes a standard for me. If I have an idea, a creation, or something I want to do, I take action on that thing. That is my standard for myself, okay?
Yes.
I will not be attracted, I don't care who he is. I am not going to be attracted to a man who has potential that is not in motion. Period.
Okay.
I don't need to invest in a man's potential. He needs to invest in that himself. No different than me. I need to invest in my potential and put it into motion. When I got a motion person and a motion person, then we are moving.
Correct.
If I am in motion and you are not moving, you're going to slow me down. And I am not investing in potential unless it's a stock market with a really good track record.
Okay, so
but human
most
beings,
people-
I used to do that when I was in my 20s. I'm always a lot of potential, a lot of potential, a lot of potential. You can burn yourself out. And again, when we talk about growing apart, circling back to the original point, when we talk about growing apart in relationships, sometimes you're growing apart because when you first got invested in that relationship, you invested in potential, and you start to see as time goes on that everything they said they were going to do, everything they said they were going to be about, they're just not. And I'm not talking about somebody who has had setbacks. Okay. So when you had said something like the beast and he had his castle and then his whole empire went down, that's different. I will be behind my man all day long. If he built an empire and life happened and it caused him to set him back,
A lot
I'm
of women
all
won't
for
do that.
I'm all for that as long as he don't stay on his ass and lay down and die. And what happens sometimes is that men and women have setbacks and they get stuck in the setback.
Correct.
And if they have a person in their life that's there to take care of them and help them, they become codependent to that and they stop moving.
Some people do.
And that will burn a person out.
No.
I've dealt with that where it's like, get up, move your body, get back to work. I got you. I got your back, but you can't just lay down here and die.
So you just said something. You just said there are some people that are in motion that have conversation, but they're not really about what they said. I just said that before.
Not in motion. They're not in motion.
Okay.
They're in emotion, if anything. That's the only motion they're in.
So there are some people, like you said before, they have conversation, but they're not about what they say they're doing.
Yeah.
They just talking about it. They're just talking good. There are some people who are actually doing what they say they're going to do, but they're not upholding. They're not a good person within themselves. And
Yeah, but that's a whole different conversation.
it's a whole different conversation.
We're just simply talking about growing apart,
Okay.
and we're kind of getting locked into this potential conversation and how potential and the lack of or the investing in someone's potential versus like just seeing the person for who they are. I don't need anybody to tell me who they are. Just show me, and then we could talk about it.
All right,
But I'm all about the action first.
That's a bad situation too for a lot of women.
So. Why?
Because a lot of men are chameleons. A lot of times, a lot of men will put on the show, put on the facade.
I think everybody's like that.
A lot of a lot of people
I think
do.
women.
What will say people then?
When people get to know each other, they're gonna brave their best face, right? That's what they're gonna bring forward to the table initially.
Yeah, but it's a little different. So because I done drifted us to a whole nother conversation. So
yeah, because we only
talked about that.
we only got a few more minutes.
Okay, we do. It don't.
All right,
seem
so
like
a couple things. See which one you want to tap into about growing apart. There's financial problems. That's a big one.
Okay.
Lack of intimacy.
Okay.
Shared interests and unrealistic expectations. I will tell you, for me personally, as a woman, in my own personal experience, I can only speak from my point of reference.
Okay.
Is I have 100% drifted apart from a partner because of unrealistic expectations. I've made the mistake of expecting something, my version of better for them. Like they could be better, and it's my version of that, if I'm being honest, right? As a result of that, it has triggered a lack of intimacy. Because what happens is,
whoa, you gotta.
So when
bring it in.
Women, and again, let me not say women. Let me speak for myself. As a woman, when I am feeling overwhelmed, frustrated, disappointed in the relationship, I don't want to be touched. I don't want intimacy. Whereas with men, sometimes, and from my experience, their love language, so to speak, is to touch. And so their way to try to fix that relationship is to try to be intimate. And as a woman, I'm completely repulsed by it when my needs are not being met emotionally. So if your physical needs are not being met, it's because my emotional needs are not being met.
That's an issue. That's a huge issue.
But it causes relationships to grow apart because now the man feels rejected because he's not getting his physical touch from a woman. And the woman feels repulsed because her emotional needs are not being met. And that's a real conversation that a lot of people try to skirt around. And women will have sex with their man because they feel obligated, because if I don't have sex with him, he's going to cheat on me and be with another woman. But that man needs to have the same conversation and like, my woman's backing off from intimacy because I'm not meeting her emotional needs. And by the way, another man will come around and meet those emotional needs. Our needs can get met and drift apart from other, when we're drifting apart, somebody else can fulfill those needs, whether it's physically or emotionally. And that's a problem. And so it's not one or the other. If I feel like if a man really loves and cares about his woman and she's kind of losing her interest in him sexually, he should tap in and see what he's not doing for her emotionally.
So when we talk about that emotional aspect of it, is most men, what are they going to do for you in Valentine's Day? What's the number one thing they're going to do? Buy you what?
Depends.
Roses. So majority of men just going to buy you roses, right? And
this year for Valentine's Day, we're doing a no gift Valentine's Day, so I'm not getting anything.
Okay, so got it, because you're emotionally checked out. I'm being funny. So what happens is a lot of men are not tapped in sometimes to that aspect of how do I come in and just sit down and rub your feet and talk to you? How do I come in and just hold you and we just watch a movie? How do I come in and just bring you a gift without even,
or how about this?
Be a special occasion? Everybody's not tapped into that.
But how about this? And I love what you said, and I think it's beautiful, and I think it's geared in the right direction. I think the biggest mistake, and it's going to go back to communication, is we don't actually ask our partners what they actually need. We just assume it.
Correct.
Right? So rubbing my feet, buying me flowers, all that's beautiful, and it's endearing, and I have a lot of gratitude towards that. But that doesn't necessarily equate to the emotional needs that I need that are not being met.
What's emotional?
Well, but that's a conversation for the person. I mean, it could be a lot of different things, but I'm just saying a lot of times we act on what we think is the right thing to do, and our intentions are so good, but it doesn't have the same impact as if you were to just ask your partner, what is it you need from me? Okay. What is it that you're lacking? Why are we falling apart? Why are we drifting apart? And if I tell you it's because of this, and if you tell me it's because of this, we actually hear that thing And that's the thing we work on. I would rather be rewarded in being heard than being rewarded with a gift.
Which is great. Here's the issue. A lot of women don't reward men and are not emotional towards men as well, because men harbor what's going on within them and they don't tell you, babe, I would love to be held too. I would love for you to just come in and rub my back. Women ain't gonna do that. See, it's always the woman.
No, you just said the man won't have that conversation.
Men will not have that conversation.
Why?
Because it's more difficult for me to have that conversation. Like, babe, I would love for you to come in here and just hold me. Most women be like, oh, bitch. Like,
no, that's not true.
Most women don't have the capacity to hear a man out. I'm not saying all. Listen to me. The issue with this society now is, like I told you with the special education, they threw everybody in the same path.
Clevonne.
A lot of women don't do that with the men. Something? They don't do that with the men.
Clevonne.
So you do that?
Clevonne, would you like a hug?
Yes. Yeah.
You didn't even know how to receive that.
Yeah, look. See, you see that? You see that?
You didn't even know how to receive it.
It's yeah. I would love that. See, that women are not taught to come in and be
so do you need
emotional
a hug, yes
support.
Or
no, I'm okay right now.
Okay.
I'm okay right now. I appreciate it though.
No, you're welcome.
Yeah, I'll take the hug though. Look, I would take the hug though. This is the thing: is a lot of women that be real. Are women taught how to be emotional support to men?
I think so. Yeah. I can only speak from my side of it. Absolutely. I feel like if my man comes to me and he's breaking down for whatever reason, and he's vulnerable with me, I am very much a nurturer, and I think most women are. But a man has to feel comfortable in his vulnerability to get that. And a lot of men aren't. Like you said, they won't share it.
Yes.
I can't read your mind and know what you need from me, and vice versa. But if a man if he gets comfortable enough, and he has to feel safe that he can be comfortable with that woman, to say, I need you. I'm losing it here, man. And that woman, her nurture kicks in. She's gonna nurture that man if they're good people and they love each other. And I believe that wholeheartedly.
Let's go to the intimacy part really quick.
We ain't got time.
We don't. But when you just said, when a person actually checks out because I'm emotional, I have this issue, and I don't want to be emotional, I don't want you to touch me.
Yeah.
How does a woman translate that and tell the partner, because there are women actually listening, how do they teach the man to say, okay, or how do they communicate to the man to say, you know what, let's talk? Before it gets to that point, because some women just check out and don't want a man to touch them. And now a man is going to be like a wandering stray dog. And stray dogs going to go wherever they can.
I think it's a measure of being able to be empathetic. And I think sometimes, like, what may be a big deal to me, my man might see as not a big deal. And so he minimizes what I'm feeling. And that's where there can be breakdown. So if I were to go to my man and say, when you say these things, or when you do these things, or when you're not supporting me here, or you're not helping me with this, I'm feeling overwhelmed, I'm exhausted, I need you to be more of a support for me. He might look at it like, as an example, I'm using this as an example, like, that's not that big of a deal. Why is that? Why is that a big deal? Why do you just go do this? Or they might minimize it. So then you start to feel like what you're thinking and feeling doesn't matter.
When a woman says, if a woman were to say, I need you to be more of a support to me, how can I as a man be more of a support?
That's
and
that's it right there.
Because mentally, if I know,
but right there, what you said, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but right there, what you said, because I don't want you to go past that point. That question is the answer. If I said, I need you to be more of a support in my life, and you as a man say to me, what can I do? That right there is a beautiful start.
But we're going off our normal assumption, which means if I'm already providing,
but we're demonstrating a healthy dialogue.
Okay, so let's role play it then, really quick. You go ahead.
Okay, because we got to do it really quick, and then we got
3 minutes, but we're gonna role play this really quick before we end out.
Okay.
So you as a woman, you gonna come in, be Lorraine, I'll be Clevonne.
Perfect.
Go for it.
I like this.
Go for it.
I'm overwhelmed. You've been frustrating me lately. I'm going to just come at you like how a woman will come at you. Okay,
got it.
I've been frustrated. I've been feeling really overwhelmed. You're not helping me. I feel like I'm handling these kids by myself, and I'm working full time. And then you want me to cook food. And then you made a comment about how my body doesn't look good. And and you were checking out that girl the last time we were out. And it's just like, I feel like nothing I do is enough. And yet you're not supporting me. You're not helping me. This is how I'm feeling. And this is why I'm not talking to you and why we're not having sex. Your turn.
Damn. I don't know what to say. That's how most men will respond.
Yeah.
So how the man should respond, because that's how most men would respond.
Okay.
That's the analogy.
Well, because right there, hold on real quick. What I do understand and what I just did was that if a woman comes at a man like that, he's going to feel he's under attack. And I do understand that because women will get to the point where they're coming at their men and they feel attacked. How they're thinking and feeling is valid, but how they're sharing it behaviorally will determine whether or not it reaches the destination that you want it to reach.
So that goes back
makes
to
sense.
the washer machine effect I told you
Okay,
earlier.
but don't get into the washing machine.
I'm not going there,
Okay.
but just remember that part. So
because we literally have like 1 minute
so
left.
now, like you just came in and you just told me about all this different stuff. Now, how a man should respond, most men want to interject on each point that you're making. So when you told me that I don't help you with the kids, what can I actually do?
Yeah.
Like what am I not doing?
Yeah.
You saying that you tired of cooking. Okay, I can try to cook, but you don't like my cooking either. Because you told me to get out the kitchen every time I cook. So I don't mind
would say
cooking.
this for me, that it's a measure of disarming. And I think that for us as women, and again, I'm saying that vaguely, for me as a woman, and let me continue to rephrase. For me as a woman, if I am at a peak state of emotion and I'm coming at you, I'm not saying that that's the right way. But what I would love for a man to be able to do is to recognize that she is overwhelmed and I love her. Let me disarm her. Hold on, let me finish. So for me as a woman to feel heard and seen in that scenario that I just painted, if he were to be gentle with me in that moment and give me this, baby, calm down. I want to hear you, and not get on the defense of that side of it. At some point when there's disagreements going back and forth, especially if someone's coming at you, whether it's the woman or the man, someone has to be the bigger person, say, okay, my person that I love is really overwhelmed at the moment. And I know I'm feeling attacked, but let me try to disarm this person instead of me being defensive or being as confrontational. And let me see if I can disarm them, because I want us to get to a space where we can communicate.
But you didn't give me a chance to come here to say, come here, baby. Come here. Let me give you a hug. Just come here.
Right. And that's disarming.
You didn't just give
but
me
that's
that
what I
chance
mean
to
by
say that.
disarming.
And so that's what I'm saying is, if most men understood that, to just go hug the woman, to just go hug them.
If that's what she requires.
No.
You got to know your woman, though.
No, you got to know your woman. But if you just told me you're overwhelmed, you're tired of the kids, blah, 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 and I come in, I say, just come in, give me a hug. Let me hug you real quick. And I kiss you on your forehead. And I say, you know what? Just go sit down for a second. I got us. Okay? I'm going to go ahead and take care of this. Now what I need you to do, go get in the shower to take care of the kids. You just relax. Isolation. They're not going to bother you. All right?
If that's what she needs, don't assume. Right? Sometimes it's just, hold on. All of that sounds beautiful. It sounds beautiful, Cleve. I'm telling you, it's beautiful.
But you need to be in isolation,
all of those
too.
Things, sometimes just ask her what she needs. I love that you said hug her, disarm her, bring down the emotion. Sit down for a second, let's take a break. And then all you have to say is, what do you need? Right now, what do you need?
But no.
That's it. And then let's let her tell you.
But for my version, I'm going to ask you what you need when I get back to the room, when I take care of all this stuff you just brought up to me.
But you don't know if that's in the moment what she needs.
It's in the moment, but I'm telling you that go have a moment of isolation. See, this is where you got to be receptive too.
No, but I understand that. But all it takes is you to listen to what the person needs. Sometimes it's great what you're saying. I'm not saying what you're saying is wrong. But what I'm saying is it may not require all of that right away. Sometimes you just got to get off your chest, and you just need to know that that person heard you. And then take action. But ask that person, what is the first thing I could do, or what can I do? And then when that gets handled, at some point, there needs to be communication on the other side of it, where the man can say to the woman at a different time, listen, I understood the other day you were frustrated and all this stuff, and I want to be there for you. But can we work on how you come at me?
But you didn't even give me a chance to come in the room and have the conversation with you.
We ain't got no time,
We ain't got no conversation or no time. But what I'm telling you is, if a man just did all of that, listen to me.
Okay.
And I just said, just go in the room, have a seat. I'm going to take care of this. Just relax, be to yourself. When I get in the room, we going to talk. You got to give me a chance to come in the room and talk and ask you what you need and ask you, how can I help? And allow me to nurture you as well.
Yeah.
Because most men are not in the capacity to know how to nurture the woman the same way she would nurture him as well.
It doesn't have to be the same.
But you give me an opportunity to come in isolation with you, so it's just me and you. Without the kids.
Or sometimes she just wants the isolation without you. You just have to ask
So
her.
that's what I just told you to
My
go in the
point
room
is you
and
just
be by your.
ask. All right, how are we closing? Because we can go on and on about this.
I just told you go in the room by yourself and sit down, go take a shower. Ain't nobody to bother you. Now be receptive.
Now
okay?
you get it. That's
all
what you
I'm
just
trying to
did it
tell
right
you.
there.
Man, because look, that's how a man gonna come off at you later on.
Okay, so how are we closing this? Because we got to close. We can't talk about it forever.
No, we cannot talk about this forever. So look, this is our actual first podcast
Yes,
right now.
I thought it was
of
good.
Cat and Mouse, and this is our first.
I love how your
run
voices
through.
got really calm too.
Yeah. So this is like I can't come at you like how I would come in my lady because it would be a totally.
Oh, you'll
different.
get comfortable. We'll get more like that.
Oh, as time progresses, you already know. So this is our actual closing of our actual podcast.
Yeah.
We truly appreciate you for tuning in. If you do have any questions or any topic lines that you want us to cover, what's the email we want to send? What's the email we want them
I
to
don't know
reach
yet.
out
Just
to?
we'll put links in the bottom of this.
Okay, so we'll actually put a link up and we'll actually tag it in. So if you actually have something that you want us to touch on, we will definitely touch on it as well. Do you have anything you want to close with?
No, I love it. Just cat and mouse. It's always a cat and mouse game.
Yeah. So
you and I, Cleve.
Exactly. So I was running pretty fast as a mouse today.
Yes.
You couldn't catch
that'll
up.
continue.
Okay. Well,
So I'm the cat then in this episode, maybe.
Maybe. Okay. Got it.
All right. Well, do not forget that we're starting this, launching this. Do not forget to subscribe. Again, tell us the topic ideas you want to hear from us. We are always going to do this, but we're always going to agree to disagree at the end, right? It's all about having healthy conversation.
Yes.
And debates that are healthy and respectful.
And we want to we want to see actual relationships actually become healed and actually see people grow to their full potential and capacity.
Yeah.
Beyond where we are.
That's right. There
So
you go
we
with your
appreciate
potential.
you till we all meet again. Peace.
Ciao.